This city won't ever drown. Blood in the water and hell to pay. Sky tear open, pain rain down.
Right, I decided to volunteer for the CAB because I was doing a degree part-time. I couldn't afford to go to university, so I decided to do Open University. And I'd started volunteering at Age Concern, and the new chap who came in was an ex-manager of Citizens Advice, and he basically raved about Citizens Advice and all these things that you could do and all the skills you can learn. And I thought, okay, it's over-exaggerating. But I went to my local CAB and had an interview. They accepted me, and since then my personal knowledge has grown so much. I'm a lot more confident on the phone. I can talk to creditors, I can deal with council, I can deal with government officials. I've learnt a lot through the CAB.
This position, the position that I'm doing now, was advertised, which is I'm volunteering in social policy. So I saw the advertisement for a volunteer in social policy, and I thought that looked really interesting. I thought it would enable me to use my experience of working in central government, and also to make a difference at a sort of local level. And also I thought, you know, it would be very interesting and stimulating for me.
I'd been a school governor, and that had sort of come to a natural end, and I decided that I needed something else that would prepare me to go back into work. And actually I think it was my sister said to me she'd got a friend in the CAB who was finding it really interesting. I didn't really know an awful lot about it until I got here, and then over a period of years I suppose I got hooked.
But the CAB seemed to be an opportunity for helping the poor and the disadvantaged, for learning up-to-date knowledge about social policy, and for using some administrative skills that I thought I had.
I was originally working in the health service for NHS Direct, and I'd been there about 10 years. I was quite interested in finding out more about work in the voluntary sector, and also I felt I wanted to give a little bit back to the community near where I lived in Richmond. I chose to volunteer with Richmond Citizens Advice because it offers a really unique service to local people. It offers a free advice and information service to people with any sorts of problems, whether it was employment, benefits, housing, legal problems.
I chose the CAB because it was well established, had a good history, and the work that it did seemed really valuable. It's the first port of call for many people when they're in trouble, and I thought it made a difference to the local community.
Probably recently the one that affected me most, it was a heating and hot water issue in a block of council flats, and this girl was 17 years old. She had a 5-week-old baby, and she'd lost heating and hot water. And every time you phoned up the council, they said, no, there's nothing we can do, we've got an independent contractor dealing with it. And you phoned up then, and again you were fobbed off there as well. And so this went on and on and on until we actually had to get solicitors involved after we wrote loads and loads of letters. And then suddenly, before the solicitors were going to take action, they got the heat and hot water mended. But then again, it was a fight for compensation because she'd had to use small electric heaters, and it was horrible.
I had a recent employment case where a woman had been working for as a sort of cleaner stroke housekeeper in a company, and her management had transferred across 2 different companies, and the latest one suspended her without pay because she was coming a little bit late, but it was something that she had done for years and years before, and the previous employers had been quite happy with it and had given her an exceptional pay rise, and told her how good her work was, and so that it was more important that her work was good than that she arrived exactly on time, and she always did overtime. And been helping her deal with a particularly unkind employer who has been treating her very badly and keeping her hanging on for a very long time without telling her what's going on, and made her think that she was being suspended without pay at first, which frightened her a lot. So yes, there's been quite a lot of kind of hand-holding on that one, because it's been a horrible situation for her. She's not used to anybody criticising her work at all.
There was an individual who had worked for a substantial employer, a well-known name, who had been dismissed for unsatisfactory performance of work, and who wanted to know his employment rights. And I explained to him his rights, including the right that he could appeal against the employer's decision, and the sort of points that he ought to include in his appeal. And I also explained to him his rights, if the appeal went against him, to take his claim to an employment tribunal for potential unfair dismissal.
Oh God, there's so much you can do to follow up cases. You can have someone who comes in and they'll tell you that they've been working for 4 years and today their employer's told them not to go back. And so you're starting by writing letters with the client and helping them to challenge why the person's done that. Then you're looking into the areas of dismissal, whether it's wrongful, unfair, constructive, forced redundancy, anything like that. And you can go all the way to taking it to employment tribunal, and you can actually go to employment tribunal as a Mackenzie friend and stand there and prompt your client and say, what about this? That's a good thing.
Okay. Each time we interview a client, they explain the problem that they have, and we listen and absorb it and make some notes, with their permission, of the basic parts of the story. We then consult a large database of information produced by the CAB to identify relevant pieces of information for that individual, which we then review with a supervisor, and he or she refines what we propose to say, or suggests something that we may need further to look at, or says yes, that's fine, go ahead, and we feed back to the client. In many cases that's the last we hear of them. In other cases they come back either for continuing advice on the same problem or for something completely new.
Volunteering is important because the state can't do all of this for us. By us giving something back to our local communities, back to our friends and neighbours that we live with, it means that people can get some of the support that the state will never be able to provide. The popping in for cups of tea, checking up on people, informal support to your children's friends. It's about building the social capital in society, about helping to provide other people with opportunities that you might have had, and it's about making sure that the most vulnerable people in society aren't left isolated or without friends or without anyone who looks after them.